Hello, everybody. Welcome into The Cycle. I am Ryan Wormeli, joined as always by Mike Maher. We are talking all things fantasy baseball. On this segment, we are talking some buy lows and sell highs. We're also going to do our waivers central heading into next week. We will start where we always do with the buy lows. And Maher, you can go ahead and kick us off here.
Sure. So I went with Roman Anthony as my buy low, who I considered. Can you really buy low on Roman Anthony right now just because the sample size is so small? And I, based on, my DMs and some of the comments we got on last week's episode where, we kind of talked about Roman Anthony and Pete Armstrong in Dynasty. And I said it was absurd to move PCA ahead of Roman Anthony, and you disagreed. And some people in the comments were also already ready to just move PCA up above Roman Anthony. And I just think, slow your roll here a little bit. This is still the best prospect in baseball. We are. I wrote him up in this week's players to trade now, buy low, sell high article on FantasyPros, and I made the argument that one of the main things about it is when I watch him, he looks like a professional hitter. He's having some bad luck. His BABIP is still 138 right now, but he just looks like he takes professional at bats, even against lefties. And the Red Sox are showing that they agree because Alex Cora, who has been asked all year about why are you not playing Marcelo Mayer against lefties, or why are you trying kind of like protecting these kids against these left-handed hitters against lefties. He's batting Roman Anthony high in the lineup, and even in lefties against lefties, he's batting him second in the lineup. And despite some of the early struggles, at least numbers wise, the Red Sox are showing a lot of faith in him, and I think they're justified in doing so because I think he's going to get hot soon. And despite, what is his batting average right now? It is 114 with a 227 expected batting average. But he's also walking more than 18% of the time. Strikeout rate is 25%. That's not great. It's not terrible for a young hitter. We just talked about some young hitters with a strikeout rate over 30%. And I just think we're going to see him get hot either leading into the All-Star break or coming out of the second half. We've, again, talked ad nauseum about these young hitters who come up and struggle. I think we're seeing the same thing, and I think it's going to click for him soon, and he's going to adjust to the league, and he's going to get hot.
For the record, I don't think it's knocking Roman Anthony to say that Pete Crow Armstrong has earned a spot higher than him in Dynasty rankings. It's not like there's a huge age gap. PCA is like 2 years older than him, and he's already having a dominant season, whereas Roman Anthony hasn't yet done it. I don't want to put... I put a lot of weight in general in my fantasy analysis. I put a lot of stock into pedigree and prospect rankings because I think they matter. Even it's not the only thing that matters, but I think they matter. But I don't want to overweight that when a guy like Pete Crow Armstrong is doing what he's doing right now. So that's my thought on those two in particular. But yeah, I think this is a totally valid one. I don't know how acquirable he is. If somebody has been holding on to Roman Anthony, they probably are having a similar optimistic view to what you have. But I agree that if he is attainable, he's worth buying low on. I mean, batting 114, right? Just one homer, one stolen base. He's not doing anything yet, but I think he will. So
yeah, and I think he is acquirable just because of some of the comments I'm seeing in my DMs or on the FantasyPros Discord, where they're just give me anything for Roman Anthony, or I'm willing to cut Roman Anthony. And I'm like, oh, hold on. It's way too early for that. We've seen this story so many times, especially this year and last year. It's way too early to panic like that. You need to hold on. And if you're going to trade him, you better get fair value, because if you trade him to me, I'm willing to. Then I won't ask you each name, but the pitchers I put out there that I would float for Roman Anthony was Nick Pivetta, Kodai Senga, Chris Bubich, Yusei Kikuchi, who just had another good start. And then the most interesting one is if you'd be willing, if probably the top name would be Andrew Abbott. If you're willing to kind of sell high on Andrew Abbott in order to buy low on Roman Anthony.
Okay. My buy low is George Kirby. And I put this together before he pitched yesterday, where he only allowed 1 earned run in 6 innings, just 3 strikeouts. But maybe he's kind of starting to shake off more of that rust and get back to what we expect out of him. So hopefully it's not too late to go after him. But like I said, I did put him in here when his ERA was still above 6. But Kirby's just always a pitcher that I've really liked. His walk rate is double what it's been in his career, but he didn't get a spring training really. Obviously he's coming, with this injury that cost him the start of the season. He's only 7 starts into his 2025 year. He's 1-4 He does have a strikeout per inning, which is better than he's given us the last 2 innings. That's largely driven by his 14 strikeout game that he had a few starts ago. But this is a pitcher where the fastball velocity is where it was last year. Like, it looks like he's, reasonably healthy. I am just assuming that his slow start is simply rust, and he's only 27 years old. Like, I think he'll be the George Kirby of old very soon. And if you can acquire him in a trade for somebody who doesn't, I'm not going to say has lost patience, but maybe doesn't have the ability to be patient because it's halfway through the season, and maybe somebody just like they need somebody who can contribute now because of where they are in the standings. I would try to get George Kirby because, again, I think the second half he's going to be that same guy, right? Where he has the ERA, I think in the mid threes. Like, he's not going to walk anybody. He's going to have a low whip. I like George Kirby a lot. The other thing worth noting, just in some of his numbers, the home run to fly ball rate is like sky high. His previous career high is 10%, and it's currently at almost 18%. Wow. So that's obviously hurting him. His expected FIP is 3.57, which is almost identical to what it was a year ago. Its current FIP is 4.49. So I think the numbers will come down, and he's going to look like his usual self going forward. So a lot of times we look at like the underlying numbers to make this case. This is more of just like the track record, some of the underlying numbers like that home run rate, and just trusting that he's going to shake off the rust.
A random stat comparison I just noticed while looking at the stats while you're talking and kind of jumping between tabs is that I thought I was looking at George Kirby when you were talking about his home run to fly ball rate. I was actually looking at Pico Armstrong, and he also has an 18% home run to fly ball rate.
Nice.
I largely agree with you on Kirby. I was like a little, not like down on him, but like probably like slightly below consensus coming into the season just because of what you said. You're not normally going to get that strikeout per inning, which is kind of what like a barometer of your that you're like looking for. But I think I agree with you. I think he's just off to a slow start. We've seen this with pitchers before, like Blake Snell last year, who got off to a really slow start after not really having a spring training. A lot of his expected numbers are better. And I agree. I think this is rust. Whether or not we see it before the All-Star break, or maybe he just kind of needs to get to the All-Star break, kind of catch his breath, and then we see George Kirby in the second half. You see that a lot with players. It's like an unofficial like turnaround. Even though that's not like the exact first half, second half of the year, like mid-year break. Sometimes you see players just like need to kind of like catch their breath, reset, and then we just see a different player in the second half. Sometimes it works the other way. A player that's really hot cools off in the second half.
I mean, you can even just look in June. His first 2 starts came in May. If you take those out and just look at his June stats since returning, it is a 3.54 ERA, 28 strikeouts in 28 innings, and a 1.11 WHIP. So like more walks than you're used to with him. But beside like that, basically is George Kirby, if not maybe even a little better than last year with the strikeout per inning. Again, that is heavily weighted by the 14 strikeout game he had against the Angels. The rest of his outings, he has not had the strikeout numbers that you really want to see, but he like basically already is kind of getting back to what we expect. And the numbers, it's still early enough that they're dragged down by those early starts. So I would try to get him before he goes on a tear, which I think is coming.
You want me to look at a couple names that you would trade him for, or no?
Sure.
So he's pretty high in the trade value chart. All right, let me see. Let me look for some comps here. His value is pretty high, so he's not really.
Well, this is one that I was curious what your reaction was going to be in terms of like, oh, he's not actually a buy low, or he's like at least too obvious of one that people won't be willing to, like he's not attainable. So I was kind of curious what your thoughts were going to be on that side of things.
I think he's trending towards not being a buy low. Like it's probably one of those situations where the window's closing. And maybe it already closed in some leagues, and maybe it's not closed yet in other leagues. But I think when you make a trade offer to someone and they look down and they see George Kirby's ERA is 5.4, I think there's still an opportunity to buy there, even though he's pitched better of late. But I will say our trade value chart still has him pretty valued pretty highly. And like he's in the range of Christian Yelich. Like, which would you rather have, Yelich or Kirby rest of the season?
That probably just depends on what I need.
Yeah, Alex Bregman. He just got hurt, but Zach Neto. Like these are pretty good names, so that tells you kind of where he's valued on the.
I think I'd rather have Bregman. I mean, I don't know what really to expect with the injury stuff with him. But if he gets back healthy, I'd rather have Bregman. But I'd rather have Kirby than Neto.
Your boy Seiya Suzuki is in that range.
Seiya's crushing it, man. I love Seiya.
Yeah. Lawrence Butler.
Yeah. So he's pretty highly valued, I think, is the ultimate takeaway here. But maybe worth trying. But maybe he's not a buy low. And if he is not, then I apologize. But you're right. The season-long numbers for him so far would suggest that he is. All right. Let's go to your sell high.
So my sell high is Clarke Schmidt, who is someone who's been on a heater. And if I can scroll down to my notes so I don't just fly blind here. So Clarke Schmidt is a pitcher who's been really hot lately through 12 starts and nearly 3 months of the full season. He's got a 2.84 ERA, 1.06 whip, and a 4-3 record to go with 65 strikeouts in 69 2/3 innings, so almost a strikeout per inning. And after kind of a rough April where he had some bad luck, he rebounded with a solid May, and he was even better in June. And he's running hot right now, making it the perfect time to sell high on him. And he has a nearly identical ERA to what he posted over 85 innings in 2024, 2.84 versus 2.85. And so it could just be, kind of his expected numbers are like slightly worse than that. It could just be that he's a pitcher who just routinely will outperform his expected numbers. I don't think we have a large enough sample size to know that that's true or to think that that's true. So I do think that regression is coming, negative regression, if you want me to clarify. And so I lean towards regression coming for him. I don't think he's this good. I don't think he's bad, but I don't think he's this good. And I think it's again, when you present a player like this in a trade and you look at those stats and you look at that he pitches for a good team, I think you can get a decent value for him. And so one of the names I flipped for him is a name we mentioned in our previous video. If you want to go back and see us talk about some rookies, I posed, can you flip him for Jack Caglione right now? Maybe that's selling too high, or maybe that's aiming too high. But that's kind of where I would start the conversation. Maybe I can, if that manager is frustrated and it's already gotten a few weeks of just below 200 batting average from Jack Caglione, he's only got those 2 home runs. He could use some pitching. Maybe he's willing to get out of the Jack Caglione business, and I'm willing to get into the Jack Caglione business. And so that's kind of where I would start. And if not there, maybe I take a flyer on a new look Max Muncy now that he's got glasses. TJ Friedl, who was ironically a sell high for me last week, but I would sell high / on Clarke to buy high on Friedl. Maybe his Statcast profile is kind of all over the place, but Luis Arias, he's got a really bizarre Statcast page, but he kind of always does. Or someone like Tommy Edman, who is kind of slowing down a little bit. You might be able to acquire him for Clarke Schmidt.
I think
that was a lot of me talking. Your turn now.
Well, I was gonna say I think you could get Caglione.
You think so?
Well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, I
don't know.
Again, the young guys struggling is like a really common thing now. So if somebody, again, we're talking redraft, of course, but if somebody says like, I don't have the ability to wait on him to figure it out, and I need pitching help, I could see managers saying, oh, this guy's pitching for the Yankees, so he's going to get win opportunities. ERA is under 3. I'll take that for Caglione. I think that's doable. I mean, maybe I'm
on the
way
trade
off
value
base,
chart.
but...
They are. Well, I don't think you are way off, because that's one of the reasons I picked him, is that on the trade value chart they are within that same range. And sometimes it takes rookies a little bit longer to kind of rise or fall, but where they are right now on the trade value chart, they're pretty even.
All right, my favorite sell high is Byron Buxton, who has been is it fair to say he's been sneaky awesome this year? I mean, he's been on a heater of late, which has really helped, but he's been insanely good, and it's a lot of red on the Statcast data. There's some blue there too. There's not a lot of middle ground. It's pretty much every category. It's either very red or very blue. Still has a pretty high whiff rate. Strikeout rate's at 27%. But he's hitting the ball really hard. His hard hit rate is over 50%. And he's got 17 home runs and 13 stolen bases. Batting average is 279. Expected batting average is lower, but it's still over 250. This is I can kind of keep this really simple. It is strictly this guy's never healthy, and if he's on this much of a heater, I would try and sell high while you can and get somebody back that you're a little more secure with, because players don't tend to get healthier as they get older, and he's into his 30s now, and obviously has a very long history of not playing full seasons. In fact, since 2017, he has played 100 games in a season once. It was last year, and he only played 102 games last season. He has not had 400 plate appearances in a season since 2017. So, like, we know what the history is with this guy. He's playing so well right now, basically leading off every game with the homer, that I think you should sell high while you can.
Yeah, exclamation point, cosign. I don't have a ton to add there. Completely agree. He's kind of one of those talents that we were just robbed of, because if he stays healthy for his entire career, like we're talking about a Hall of Famer here, because he's that good and can be that good when he is healthy. He's just never healthy. And then we've also seen him be kind of bad when he's healthy, but he's also he's been so injured and so banged up throughout his career. Like it's impossible to know, like, when was he like banged up when he put up those like poor numbers and just like leading into an injury kind of a thing. But you're always going to get that power speed.
I will say, despite the fact that I'm saying you should sell high, I think his rest of season ranking is really low. Like I'm very surprised by it. Overall, 122nd. I think he's 34th among outfielders in our consensus rest of season rankings. Like, when healthy, he's going to far outperform that. And when not healthy, he's going to obviously be useless. So, like, I would have him higher, honestly. Than like right now in the overall rankings, he's one spot behind Anthony Santander. Like, that to me just feels like that is a mistake.
It's all injury. It's all people worried about the injury.
Yeah, but Santander is hurt and has been garbage this year. So I like that. I mean, he's just the first name that I saw. But
what's his consensus outfield ranking?
I think it's 34.
Ooh,
I was just looking at it. What's that?
I have him below that. I have him at 43.
See, I think that's great. Dude is 30 combined home runs and steals halfway through the season and is playing well. I think that's too low.
I don't have him above Santander, who I have at 52.
Yeah, that's more fair. Where do you said you have 43?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he's really good. So I would
right behind Michael Garcia, Randy Arozarena, Riley Green, Jason Dominguez. Maybe I should move Jason Dominguez down.
Yeah, he should be higher than Jason Dominguez, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll move him right now. But it's all like injury, because it's like,
yeah,
sure, Byron Buxton is better than him, but like, what if he's not here in August?
Would you rather have, for the rest of this season, Mike Trout or Byron Buxton?
Mike Trout.
I mean, they're equally likely to get hurt, right?
Yeah, but I have a lot invested in Mike Trout, so I need him to be better.
So you're digging in your heels?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I took a firm stance before the season, and gosh darn it, I'm going to go down with the ship.
I mean, Buxton has been, like, much better this year, and both have injury concerns. So, like, I would rather have Buxton than Trout.
And Buxton is still running while Trout is not running.
Yeah,
much,
Buxton is when he hasn't really the last few years.
Which leads him to get injured more.
But I mean, this is his most stolen bases he's had in a season since 2019, and he's only one behind that number. So he's like 2 stolen bases away from his second most in his career. So
yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. All right, if you are struggling with lineup decisions, our lineup assistant recommends optimal lineup suggestions to maximize your team's performance each day or week. Just sync your league for tailored guidance based on your roster and league settings. Download the Fantasy Baseball My Playbook app or visit fantasypros.com/MLB My Playbook to set your winning lineup today. Let's do waivers central. I have Dominic Canzone, who is we often write down like where these guys are available. Sometimes I think I tend to go for the guys who are much lower, and it's like the kind of the deeper league, like something where your guys tend to be a little bit more rostered. This is an example where rather than writing down the percentages, he is available everywhere. There are, I think it's like 3% rostered on Fantrax, 1% on Yahoo, 1% on ESPN. Like, he is available pretty much anywhere. I'm not saying this guy's gonna be a league winner for you the rest of the year or anything like that, but he is on a hot streak. The Statcast data is not. He hasn't had enough at bats to kind of qualify for stuff, but it's pretty red. His expected batting average is 292. Expected slugging is over 500. His average exit velocity is 92 miles per hour. And what really stands out to me is his max exit velocity, which does kind of like reflect how well you're hitting pretty early on. It's 115.9 miles per hour. That's top 3% in baseball. So impacting the ball like very hard. His strikeout rate is 12.8%, Last year, it was 28.2%. Again, these are in somewhat smaller sample sizes. He had under 200 plate appearances last year. He has under 50 this year. But still, that's a pretty steep drop-off. Walk rate's a little lower, but the strikeout rate being that low is, kind of makes me raise my eyebrows. This is one where I kind of just want to pick him up and ride the hot streak, and he becomes a very droppable guy if he starts to fall off. But for the time being, if you need somebody who's on a bit of a power hot streak, that maybe he maintains it longer than you expect, but if he doesn't, he becomes a droppable piece. I like having that kind of player on my team, honestly. So that's why he is my pick, despite the fact that he's 12% rostered on Fantrax, so that's going up. But yeah, what do you think of Canzone?
I think he's probably more of a deep league target for me, just because.
Of course,
I don't know that there's a very high ceiling there, but yeah, I was trying to look at some of his like minor league stat numbers to see, like, because the strikeout number is so low despite being higher last year, and he's kind of bounced around so much, but whether it's like between teams or between like levels, it's almost kind of hard to like pinpoint what his true strikeout number is like supposed to be, because it's like 25 games here, 21 games here, 44 games here, 35 games here, and it's 12% strikeout, 17%, 14, 22, 19, 20, 33. So it's kind of all over the place. We might just not know what his strikeout rate is supposed to be.
He's had over 25 at bats since his last strikeout. His last strikeout was June 14th.
Yeah, and he usually walks more, according to some of these sample sizes. In like AAA, in 71 games in 2023 in AAA, he walked almost 13% of the time. His walk rate was 12.8 and his strikeout was 13.2, so almost identical walk to strikeout rates. He's got a little bit of power, like a little bit of speed, but like not a ton of both. So the ceiling probably isn't really high there, which is what I kind of like consider with some of these things. But I think it's either like a deep league target or, like you said, a streamer of like if you just need a warm body who's like, going to produce in the short term for you. But not a long term answer, I would say.
No, I'm not trying to paint the case that he is. All right, who's your favorite hitter?
So mine is someone we've talked about a lot on this show that we both really like, is Chandler Simpson, who got called up. And the reason I included him here is because he was called up like earlier this week. And in a lot of leagues, you may have like missed the window to pick him up because it was like after like lineups locked. I know there were a couple leagues where I was able to like, if I was stashing him and I was able to like sneak him in before, like that position locked. But he's still only 31% rostered on Yahoo. And so he's still widely available everywhere. He's only 11% rostered on ESPN. And one of the reasons I stashed him in a couple leagues is because he's like a stolen base cheat code. He's the kind of guy where if you're struggling, especially in like a roto league, if you're struggling at stolen base, he's good for like 4 or 5 spots in the standings just by himself. He'll just pull, assuming the Rays keep him up and he runs the way he can. He's a category changer, and he will almost carry that category on his own. And there are very few players who can do that with one category for you. He's not going to offer much power, but he's showed he can have a really good average. He's going to score some runs and steal some bases, and especially the stolen bases alone, he's a game changer especially in roto.
Like, totally agree. I was stashing him everywhere I could for the exact reasons you laid out. So if he's available anywhere because of him getting dropped from the surprise send down, like, pick him up. I want to start him in every categories league that I can, because he, like you said, he'll single-handedly get you to competitive in steals, if not winning steals for you.
Yeah, the bonus I have there is Austin Hayes, who's working his way back from an injury, has been really productive this year, and was dropped in a lot of places because he's just been like on and off the injured list. If I look at his roster rate, I looked it up before, and I almost didn't include him because I thought his roster rate was going to be too high. 18% on Yahoo, so he's still widely available. Only 12% on ESPN. So if you need an outfielder who's capable of producing for you, Austin Hayes is available in a lot of places. So I would pick him up for sure.
2 pitchers that I'm going to give you. I considered both Orioles guys who have been kind of pitching well as of late. Trevor Rogers, who ended up not being my main choice, but I just wanted to shout him out because he's made 3 starts since getting called back up, and 2 of them he's been like really awesome. He like legitimately shoved, and the velocity is up for him. I didn't actually write down what it was, so I'm going to pull it up while I'm talking here, but The fastball velocity was looking much better than it had been previously. 3.7 in the last, it's up 2 miles per hour over last year, and that just gets it to 93.7. But in the last game, it was like he was like sitting 95, like touching 96. So whatever the Orioles did, at least 3 starts in, appears to be working pretty well. Even with one bad start in that mix, he's got a 1.62 ERA, 13 strikeouts in 16 and 2/3 innings, a 0.78 WHIP. So I don't know how it's going to last, but this is somebody they went out and traded for last year, giving up 2 like reasonable prospects in Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby. So, and he's only 27. He's had a good year in the past, even though it was like 4 years ago. So I'd be interested in him. But then the Orioles pitcher that I really went with is Charlie Morton, who's 36% roster on Yahoo, 13% ESPN, 47% on CBS. And like his season-long stats are going to look terrible because he was so bad. I thought he should retire after April. Like he could not have been worse in the first month of the season. In fact, the first 6 starts he made, he like got the loss. He gave up at least, I think it was 4 earned runs in each one of those. Like he was horrific. They kind of gave him a reset, put him in the bullpen for a few games. In mid-May, they brought him back to the starting rotation, and he's been really good since then. What he didn't have in April was the use of his curveball, which is his his main best pitch. And it was not working for him in April for whatever reason. This guy's in his 40s. Like sometimes you just lose it. It's been working for him since coming back. Since May 26th, these are his outings. 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. 7 2/3 innings, no earned runs, 7 strikeouts. 1 bad start in there, 2 1/3 innings, 4 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. 5 innings, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts. 6 innings, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. And then 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. So even in the games that are now bad for him, they're not disastrous, going to ruin your week type of bad. Like we saw against the Rangers. He wasn't his best outing, but it was still 3 earned run in 5 innings. Like if that's your floor at pitcher with what he's given you as a ceiling the last month, I think that's pretty good. I'm not saying I'm going to hold on to him the rest of the season, but I want to be picking him up. I want to at least have him rostered in case like this turnaround is legitimate and he's something close to the Charlie Morton of old moving forward, because that's basically what he's been the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get that floor out of your mouth when you've seen like what he can be. Also, how many more starts do you think he makes for the Orioles before he gets traded?
I don't know. If he does end up getting traded, though, he's likely going to a better team and more opportunities for wins.
Right.
So it's a reasonable question. He in the I was looking at this the other day, and now I don't have it up in front of me. I was looking at just kind of where he ranks amongst all pitchers since mid-May. I think I put the number at like May 18th or something, and he's been very, very good. Like it's not just that he's improved from the point I'm trying to make is that it's not just that he's improved from where he was in April. He's been one of the better pitchers in fantasy baseball. Not the best, but one of the better pitchers in fantasy baseball for over a month at this point.
Yeah, for me, the only thing I would be hard for me to forget is we've seen what like the bad can be from Charlie Morton, and like when you pick him up and you're starting him, like I would always be wondering like, please don't let this be the 9 earned run start. Please don't let this be the 9 earned run start.
I'm not even saying I'd
Trevor
pick
Rogers,
him up and like auto start him, but like I would just want to get him on the roster.
Yeah, and then Trevor Rogers. First off, bad trade. Like I didn't understand that trade at the time. I don't get it now. At least he's finally starting to pitch good. Pitch well. Sorry, bad English. But I remember being liking Trevor Rogers in Dynasty 5 years ago, and then just wondering kind of what happened because he came 2021, 157 strikeouts and 133 innings, like mid-2s ERA, and you're like, all right, like this guy might be something. And then he came out the next year and he just stunk. 5.47 ERA, and then even when he kind of came back, worked his way back from some injuries and was back in 2024, it was almost 5 ERA, and he wasn't we saw 157 strikeouts and 133 innings. Now he wasn't even striking out a batter per inning. It was 97 strikeouts and 124 innings. So I hope for his sake he is really back and is like turning into the the pitcher who this guy's a former first round pick. Like he's not just a crumb that they pulled out of nowhere. He does have some pedigree that people saw coming up. And so for his sake, I hope he figured it out. But it's a really small sample size, so it's kind of hard to know what we're looking at here.
All right, run me through your favorite pitcher.
So my favorite pitcher is Jacob Lopez, who just kind of did come out of nowhere. Maybe not necessarily, but kind of came out of nowhere, and he's just been continuing to pitch really well. Mid-3 ERA, 55 strikeouts in 43 innings. He's just been pitching even better of late. He just against the Tigers, one of the surprisingly better teams in baseball, 7 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts, and that was his third quality start in a row. With he had 6 strikeouts in that start, and then his previous 2 he had 9 strikeouts in each of those quality starts, and only 1 earned run over those last 3 starts. So he's on a heater right now, pitching really well, and I don't love that he has to pitch in that home ballpark, but overall he's someone who's like running hot right now, and if you can get a pitcher who's doing some good things, he is one of them.
And your other guys?
My bonus.
Yeah, I was going to say, you wrote down a few names here. Yeah.
I wrote down a few. My bonus is Emmet Sheehan, who you talked about last week. And, you talked about how you wrote up, or you talked up Chase Burns, and then he got called up. I talked up Emmet Sheehan, and he got sent down. And it was to no fault of his own. They just, needed some bullpen help. But it seems like he's going to be coming back up soon. They have some limitations on when they can ping him back up just because of the rules, unless there's an injury. But the Dodgers need so much pitching, but I think he's going to be back up soon. And so I would definitely pick him up and stash him for now, because I think he's going to be back up soon, and he should be pitching pretty well for a really good Dodgers team, and you can kind of get him for nothing now. And then first and foremost, because of the timing last week, like we talked about with Chandler Simpson, Chase Burns was also kind of called up at an interesting time. And so there are leagues like I'm in TGFBI, this NFBC league. You couldn't pick up Chase Burns before we made an appearance. And so he's available in NFBC leagues this weekend. And he's going to go for massive FAAB bids, like $400 FAAB bids of a $1,000 budget, like 40%. And so, and I in our ESPN fantasy league for work, I picked up Chase Burns today because it's a daily roster league and it's like really small rosters and no one had picked him up yet. And I had just not considered whenever I think about a player like that, I'm like, oh, he's already rostered in my leagues. And I was like, let me check that ESPN league. I bet he's not rostered there, and he wasn't. So I picked him up. I ended up dropping Kevin Gossman for him. What do you think about that move?
Bad. Kevin Gossman shoved today.
That's all right.
8 shutout innings.
Nice. I think I actually got credit for that start.
Oh, because of when you picked him up? Then that's helpful, yeah. No, I in this league, yes, I like that. I don't know how I feel in other leagues, but in this league, yes, I like that move.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in that league for context. We end the season this week and already start a long playoffs, and then we have multiple leagues where you have to win your league and then go to playoffs against someone else. And I'm already trying to I'm in first place, or no, I'm in second place, but I'm tied with the first place person, and we're head to head this week for first overall in that league. And so I'm already trying to line up my playoff roster because of the different rules and stuff. You're limited in who you can pick up. So yeah, I wanted Burns on my roster now.
I'm facing our pal Fitz to try and make the playoffs in that league.
Yeah. And no innings concerns for me in that league because it's over in July.
Exactly. All right, very quickly run through your deep league targets.
All right, so deep league targets, pitchers and hitters who should be available in most places. They can help you either short term or mostly short term. I would say a couple of them are more longer term, but mostly short term. Ryan Nelson, a pitcher for the Diamondbacks, has been pitching pretty well. Edward Cabrera is surprisingly not rostered everywhere, and we'll talk about him a little bit on the next video when we talk about streaming pitchers. But he has an upcoming 2-start week and is pretty available. And someone that we've liked in the past. Colton Gordon, pitcher for the Astros, is pitching pretty well. Tyler Anderson, I feel like I've mentioned him just kind of throughout the year. He continues to be under-rostered and continues to be very valuable in deep leagues, continues to pitch well. He's just a savvy veteran. He doesn't have sexy stuff, but he's just really good at limiting hard contact and continuing to put up, solid numbers in deeper leagues. Not necessarily in your standard league. He's not going to do a whole lot for you, but in those 15-team leagues, absolutely, you need to roster Tyler Anderson. He's been doing really well. Connor Norby is someone I've been surviving on third base in some deeper leagues. Just, like a little bit of power, a little bit of speed, a little bit of production. They don't really have a whole lot else going there. And so, in a deeper league, Connor Norby is available and can help you out at a weak third base position. Gary Sanchez, your boy, now that Adley Rutschman is hurt.
He is not my boy.
Leagues. In 2-catcher league, Gary Sanchez is available and has been doing some things. It's kind of gross to think about in 2025, Gary Sanchez. But in 2-catcher league, he can help you. And then Wensiel Perez is the last one, who's been hitting pretty well and is still available in a lot of leagues.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap up this segment there. Be sure to check out Rounding the Bases. If you missed it should already be posted on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And keep an eye out for our Pitching Streamers segment coming up later this weekend. For Maher, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.